Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, May 17th, 2005. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Barks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Vitagosa, Whiteside, Padilla. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. First order of business, please.
Is approval of the minutes.
Mr. Parks moves, Ms. Perry seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Gruel moves, and Mr. Reyes seconds. And actually, before moving on to the items appearing on today's agenda, this being Tuesday, as is customary, we do have a salute to the flag scheduled. If I can ask Mr. Cardenas to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cardenas.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. That's what they taught me in kindergarten.
And on a democratic note, a reminder to everybody watching at home, today is Election Day. Polls are open until 8 p.m. Please get out there and vote. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Now would be time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
And we do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on general public comment items. General public comment for today is closed. Next item, please.
On the regular agenda, items 1 and 2 are street vacation items noticed for public hearing. Council should close the hearings and instruct the engineer to proceed with the vacations.
Okay, colleagues, items 1 and 2 now before us. I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearing is open and closed. Requests for specials, item 1 or 2. Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 3 through 8 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Numbers 3 through 8 now before us, and public hearings have been held on these items. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. Seeing no such motion, do we have requests for specials 3 through 8? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those items are approved. Item 3 is an ordinance and does carry over for a second reading. Next items.
Items 9 through 29 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection, items 9 through 29 are before the City Council today. And I do have a card on item 24. We'll call that special on the balance of the, and item number 10, excuse me. So item 10 is called special as well. Mr. Reyes?
Item 25, please.
25, called special by Mr. Reyes. On items 9, 11 through 23, and 25 through 29, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council. Public hearings are open and closed. Any other specials, colleagues? Mr. Cardenas.
Could we reconsider item number 6 so we can call it special?
Okay, in just a second, we'll take up a vote on reconsideration. Colleagues, 9 through 29 on the items remaining on the desk. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Colleagues, we have a motion for reconsideration of item number 6. Let's open the roll on reconsideration, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That motion is approved. Item 6, reconsidered and called special by Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Clerk, next items, please.
On the continuation page, items 30 and 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection, items 30 and 31 are before the City Council today. We do have a card on item 31. We'll call that special to hear from members of the public. I do not have speaker requests for item number 30. Public hearing is open and closed. Members wishing to call item 30 special. Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. And I believe that's the end of our consent agenda. Let's come back to items called special.
Item 6 was called special by Councilmember Cardenas.
Mr. Cardenas, item 6.
Good morning. Today, item number 6 has to do with a very unfortunate issue, and that is the City of Los Angeles is settling with Fleischman Hillard for $5.7 million due to the activity of Fleischman Hillard that ultimately meant that they were not charging properly the ratepayers of Los Angeles. So if the city attorney, okay, the city attorney's present, do we have a representative of the Department of Water and Power here? Okay, he's coming. So I'll start with a question to the city attorney. I know that this is a settlement, so certain questions we can't ask other than in closed session, so please warn me if we cross that line. My first question has to do with the audit that was utilized to come up with this discussion and ultimately settlement with Fleischman Hillard. Was that audit an audit from the Controller's office, or was it an audit from the City Attorney's office?
The analysis that I think is oftentimes referred to as an audit that was conducted by the City Attorney's Office was conducted for litigation purposes, and it was that analysis of the damages that were initially reached in the Controller's audit that resulted in the City Attorney coming up with the $850,000 fraud figure. But that audit, or excuse me, that analysis of those initial figures was done for and by the City Attorney for litigation.
So who did the analysis of that Controller's audit?
At this point in time, until the settlement is totally approved,
Okay.
I'm going to deem that a privilege.
Okay, so how about categorically, what was who did the audit as far as, was it an attorney who did the audit? Was it an auditing firm?
Auditing firm.
So an auditing firm actually audited the initial audit that was done by the Controller's office?
I keep using the word analyzed,
Okay, I'm sorry, analyzed.
because this firm was very clear. It was not an audit. It was a review of the audit. It was a review of the complaint. It was a review of allegations that were made in the complaint in order to be able to assist us, assuming that we didn't settle this matter and we had to go into litigation. So it was a forensic analysis.
Okay, so it was a forensic analysis. And the bottom line is, ultimately what had occurred were either some overbillings or billings that could not be justified and therefore perhaps should not have been paid or were fraudulent or what have you. I'm sure there's different categories of what was going on. So the bottom line is the accumulation of that kind of activity that caused us to even have to do this forensic audit to determine whether or not Fleischman Hillard was going to be taken to court by the City of Los Angeles.
Correct. Specifically, what we were concerned with, and when I say we mean the City Attorney's Office, we're concerned with, assuming we were going forward in litigation, what would an independent auditing firm look at these damages and tell us the likelihood that we were going to establish fraud, how much of it was a breach of contract, how much of it was just questionable with respect to normal disputes. And we needed that kind of analysis independent of what was done within the city so that we would be able to present our case and have strength in court.
And many of these bills, if not all of them, somehow, some way had some kind of signature by somebody at the Department of Water and Power or went through the hands of the Controller's office before the money was actually given to Fleischman Hillard?
All of it.
All of it. Okay, all of it was.
All of it with the exception of about $1.2 million to $1.5 million that is amounts that were approved by the city, I believe by the DWP, may have been referred to or approved by the controller, but were not paid.
Okay, and those are the last billings?
Correct, and Fleischman is forgiving that, and that's
Okay.
part of the
So
settlement.
that's part of the $5.7 million settlement. So that leads to my next question to the Department of Water and Power. Of the people within the Department of Water and Power who had the authority and were actively signing off on these billings, are any of those people still in a position to be signing off on those kinds of billings now today at the DWP?
No, they're not.
Could you bring the microphone closer to you and answer that again?
Sure. I'm Ron Vasquez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the department, and no, none of those people are in a position to sign anything like that anymore.
Okay, so what has the department learned as far as, or what can the department tell the ratepayers as far as the way in which we pay those kinds of bills into the future? Any changes made, any lessons learned, anything that you can say that helps us be rest assured that this kind of activity back and forth is not likely to happen again?
Yes, we are reviewing the operation of our task management system, and that was a system in place with that contract. The procedures were not followed, and they are being adhered to now.
Okay, so you've tightened it up, you have better checks and balances?
Yes, we do, and we've also tightened up our internal audit function.
Okay. Now, question to the city attorney, what span of time were these billings in question as far as this settlement goes? Roughly, what's the span of time of those billings in years?
Initially, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Susan Lopez-Giss, Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, and you were the lead on this case, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm the attorney that filed the original complaint and drafted it.
Pull the microphone a little bit closer to you.
Okay?
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks. I'm the attorney that drafted and filed the complaint on behalf of the City Attorney's Office in the City of Los Angeles, as well as the amended complaint. The period of time that was in question was the period of time that ranged from the first formal contract with Fleischman as the main public relations firm, and that was from
about how-
1998
Okay, 1998.
until the middle of 2004.
Okay. So about 6 years, approximately, give or take.
I think about 5.5 years, actually.
5.5 years.
Right.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that question is because I think it's very important for us to understand that sometimes problems develop over months and we catch them, and sometimes issues develop over a longer period of time, like in this case. But the most important thing that I want to make sure that we've done here is that we've caught not only this situation, but we're actually making sure that this doesn't happen again. And that's basically the responsibility of the Department of Water and Power. Does the Department of Water and Power, do you have safeguards that you're putting in? Is the current director of the Department of Water and Power, have they required that all of the people who have that kind of signature authority, that they now understand the rules, they follow the rules, and that they are being checked on?
Yes, they do. And I will say that we did an audit, an internal audit of Fleischman, and we did come up with a number of findings.
Okay. The reason why I wanted to make sure we had this dialogue in front of the public is because we did this in front of the public at the Commerce Committee, but I wanted to make sure that the public understands that the department is learning their lessons, that our city attorney is working really hard to make sure that we hold people accountable and organizations accountable, and whether or not, as Rocky Delgadillo has told me, if somebody is going to wrongfully bill us, or breach a contract with us over $10,000 or millions of dollars, either way, we are going to hold them accountable. And that's what we've done in this particular case. So I think it's very important that the community understand this has received a lot of headlines. But aside from the headlines, this has actually required a lot of people to relook at what we're doing in the Department of Water and Power, to relook at how we're handling billing across the city and in the proprietary organizations as well, to make sure that this does not happen again, whether it be a small contract or a large contract. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ms. Gruhl.
Don't leave yet.
Sorry.
I know we've had a chance, Tony, in the Audits Committee, we heard the Controller's audit. I can't remember if it was probably 9 months ago, was that when the Controller's audit was released? And a number of items came to light through that audit, not only for the billing practices, but even, I think more importantly, is the changes that you were talking about, Mr. Cardenas, the importance of ensuring that this doesn't happen again. And so many of the recommendations that were present in the Controller's audit, DWP has moved on during that period of time since we heard it in our committee. And one of them that was particularly of concern to me at the time was the fact that the internal audit had been done of Fleischman Hillard, I think in 2003 or there had been an internal audit, which had not gone to the full board. And so there was, I know, a new policy that has been developed, and Ron Deaton, I think, presented that to us when we had an update on the DWP Fleischman audit, which was a change in policy, particularly to ensure that internal audits went to the full board, that there was an audit committee within the Department of Water and Power that hadn't been fully utilized in the past. And so I don't know if you can give an update today, or we may have another update in audits and government efficiency of those items that were recommended by the controller that were systemic and structural in nature to ensure that this type of billing problems didn't happen, not only in Department of Water and Power, but we're using this as an example in contracting in general in the city of Los Angeles. Could you give a brief update? Have the internal audits now gone to the full board that have occurred in the recent past?
Yes, the process that we have in place right now, before we issue an internal audit report, it is reviewed by the general manager. Responses to the audit report go to the general manager
Hold my
also.
time, please.
And full audits and responses also go to the audit committee on a regular basis.
And of the other recommendations, and I can't remember, I know the controller's office is here, the number of other recommendations, do you have a status report on some of those changes that have been made within the department relative to contracting?
All of the recommendations that were made by the controller with regard to the Fleischman audit have been implemented.
Have been implemented?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think that's an important message to send today, that not only on the settlement items that both our city attorney worked very hard at, as well as our controller, which was the beginning and the basis of this settlement, I think is to ensure and all of the colleagues here that the audit that was done and the recommendations that have occurred have not only been implemented by DWP, but similarly we will see, hopefully, learning our lesson in other departments as well. So I'm glad that those changes have been made, and we look forward to, I know Laura is doing a follow-up audit to see where those processes are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this? If not, Mr. Clerk, Madam Clerk, excuse me, if you'll please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Thank you. That item is approved. Thank you very much. We'll next take up item number 10.
Item 10 was called special for cards from the public.
Okay. We have cards from the public. Mr. Jose Huizar, I'm not sure, from the LUSD, right, that one. Please. Dan Chang and Agustin Urguiles.
Good morning, council members. My name is
morning.
Jose Huizar. I'm president of the Board of Education for the Los Angeles Unified School District. Thank you very much, Council President Alex Padilla, for bringing this resolution to the City Council to continue and further improve the student achievement levels for students at LAUSD. I, along with School Board Member John Lauritsen, have proposed a resolution to make the A through G course requirements the core curriculum for all high school students at LAUSD schools. The A through G curriculum allows students to enter the CSU or UC system. Unfortunately, today, many of our students do not have access to the A through G sequence course requirements. I've met many students who tell me that they're seniors who tell me, if only I had known that I needed to take these courses to enter a CSU or UC system, I would have taken these courses. And as we look at the numbers, we know that these courses are not offered equitably throughout LAUSD. If we make the A through G curriculum a core curriculum, all we're doing is giving students a choice to enter college, a CSU or UC, if they so choose. Unfortunately, today, many of these students do not have that choice because they are not offered the courses. A lot of our critics say, well, what if we implement this? What happens to vocational ed? All our students are not going to go to college. And yes, not all students are going to go to a CSU or a UC system. But in fact, many of our building and trade unions support the A through G curriculum because they know that in order for their workers to be successful, they need the type of skills that the A through G requirements offers. Today, students who want to be plumbers, mechanics, electricians, they need the types of skills that are offered in the A through G curriculum. So all this resolution will do is offer students choices, whether they want to continue on to vocational ed or go on to college. Some of the critics of this proposal also say that it's going to increase dropout rates because you're going to hire the bar and many of our students are not going to be able to reach that bar. San Jose Unified School District, who implemented this a few years ago, the graduation rates actually increased, because we know our students can learn when they have the resources and a well-thought-out plan to offer them these types of courses. At the end of the day, we have to make a small change in the curriculum at LAUSD for a big bang. Today, our students need 7 electives to graduate from high school. If we make the A through G requirement the core curriculum, all we do is make 3 of those 7 electives 3 of the A through G curriculums, 1 more year of math and 2 more years of foreign languages. So I ask for your support, because I think this is going to go a long way to raising high expectations for all our students, not just some of our students, but all our students. And this resolution will actually take place in the year 2008 for entering 9th graders. We wanted some time to do it well, put the resources where they're needed, train our teachers and find the teachers for these courses, because we currently do not have them, but put in a well-thought-out plan to make sure this is successful. Again, I want to thank you for your support. I've been here before to ask for your support on bonds, to ask for your support on studying the governance of LAUSD. I think this hits as one of the priorities, because this is actually going to have a huge impact on many, many students who will now have the choice to go on to college if they so choose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Huizar. It's an honor to have you here today. Dan Chang?
Hi, I'm Dan Chang. I am a director with the Small Schools Alliance. About 4 months ago, the Small Schools Alliance initiated a campaign to rally the citizens and the leadership of Los Angeles around bold education reform. We've spoken to many of you and many of your staff members over the last 4 months, and I want to particularly thank Councilmember Parks, Councilmember Gruhl, and also Councilmember Villaraigosa for their public support of the Small Schools Alliance. Over the last 4 months, we've been very encouraged by the response from the leadership, and especially the citizens of Los Angeles, who have really made education the #1 issue for this city. Our campaign is based on what we call the 6 tenets for high-performing public schools. The 6 tenets put out a vision for what all public schools in the city of Los Angeles should be. The tenets are very straightforward. First, all schools should be small. Second, all schools should have high expectations. They should have the college prep A through G curriculum as their core curriculum. Third, all schools should have local control. Fourth, the district should do all it can to put as much money back into the classroom as possible. Fifth, parent participation should be strongly encouraged at each school. And sixth, all schools should be kept open later so that the community can truly be involved in each of their neighborhood schools. So fundamental to a vision for what schools should be is the idea of high expectations, the idea that the college prep curriculum, the A through G course sequence, should be the core curriculum for all students in high school. I think one of the main reasons why this should be the case is because if you look at what's happened to our economy and if you looked at our education system, things have changed a lot, but our education model has fundamentally not caught up to that. The model for education in high schools really hasn't changed much since World War II. And the education or the economy that education model was serving was one based mainly on manufacturing and industrial companies and manufacturing in the United States. We all know the economy has changed greatly in the last 50 years. This is now the information age. The United States is mostly a service economy. And the idea that the majority of kids that graduate from high school that they can go out and get stable manufacturing jobs that will provide them and their families access to the American dream is gone. A college education now is practically a prerequisite for anybody to achieve a good life, stable life for their families. It's for that reason that the college prep curriculum, the A through G course sequence, should absolutely be the core curriculum for all public schools in Los Angeles. We've all heard the statistics recently from the Harvard study, et cetera. LAUSD currently, only 20% of entering 9th graders actually graduate reaching just the minimum college entry requirements. Only 20% of our high school students in LAUSD. This has to change. And I want to applaud the City Council for realizing that education is not just a school board or a school district issue. This is really a city issue. When the number of kids that can't go on to college, when the number of kids that drop out of our system every year The numbers are staggering, and it really affects the quality of life in Los Angeles. So I want to applaud once again the City Council for taking the initiative to get involved. I particularly want to thank Councilmember Padilla and Cardenas for putting forward this resolution to create a partnership with LAUSD with Board President Jose Huizar to actually make the A through G course sequence a reality. And I strongly urge the rest of the council to adopt this resolution as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Agustin Urguiles, and then we have also Mayor Ofelia Hernandez from the City of Huntington Park. Welcome. Please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Agustin Urguiles. I'm the Education Policy Coordinator at the Alliance for Better Community. We're also members of the Communities for Educational Equity, a coalition of over 20 community-based organizations, civic leaders, and research institutions that have been working very hard on this issue. I am here speaking on behalf of urging the LA Unified to implement the graduation requirement and allocate the necessary resources and supports to ensure that every student that graduates completes a rigorous and relevant course sequence that satisfies the A through G requirements. A student that completes the A through G requirements has successfully completed a curriculum that develops their communication skills, their critical thinking capabilities, and their problem-solving skills. This ensures that all students that graduate have the tools to succeed in college or any of today's high-skill level vocational programs. In addition to these benefits, when a student is exposed to a challenging and meaningful curriculum and is given the necessary learning supports to succeed in these efforts, they are more engaged and they are less likely to drop out and they're more likely to achieve at a higher level. This was the case in the San Jose Unified School District when they implemented the A through G requirements as a graduation requirement, and they developed the necessary learning supports and professional development in order to make this a reality. This was a district that had similar percentage of ELL students, similar percentage of students on free reduced lunch as LA Unified, and they were still able to reduce the achievement gap significantly. They were still able to reduce the dropout rate significantly. So there is a lot of hope when we implement the A through G requirements. Students can rise up to the challenge. Students can perform as long as they're supported. Currently, only 20% of the students that enter LAUSD high schools at 9th grade graduate 4 years later satisfying these courses. In some communities, this percentage is even lower. The number is 12% at Roosevelt High School, 10% at Belmont High School, and 4% at Locke High School. What we're really talking about is the future labor supply for the City of Los Angeles. What kind of industries does the City of Los Angeles want to attract? This will depend significantly on the level of academic preparation of LAUSD's graduates. It is time that we set high expectations for students. It is time that we set high expectations for teachers, for schools, and more importantly, it's time that we set high expectations for the City of Los Angeles. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you to Council President Padilla and Councilmember Cardenas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final public speaker will be Mayor Hernandez. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I do also want to applaud you for this resolution. I've been involved in my community in the education for more than 25 years. I do believe that if the parents are behind our children, they will do much better. But I also believe that we do need to improve the system of education. It was a big surprise when most of the students that graduate from high school together with my daughter find out that the requirement for graduation was not the same to qualify to continue education and go to college. So the only choice they have is to go to community college. Luckily for my daughter was very active, and she was able to receive a scholarship, and she went straight from high school to UCLA. We need that for all the students. I believe that we have very smart children. I believe that we need to improve the education. We need to give them that opportunity we need to prepare them for the future. They are the future leaders of this great nation. They are the ones that are going to take my place and your place. So we need to prepare them for that. And also in my community, we have a very big percentage of low-income families that they can support the education. They can pay, and the only way is for the students to go through with a scholarship. So if we don't prepare them since elementary and junior high, before they go to high school, then when they're at high school, it's too late. Because you need 4 years of English, 4 years of this, 3 years for that, and you don't have those 3 and 4 years anymore. They're gone. So I applaud you again, and I'm all forward, and if anything that I can help you with, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hernandez. That closes our public comment for today. We have 4 speakers. First, Mr. Padilla, to be followed by Mr. Reyes, Mr. Parks, Mr. Labange, and now Mr. Cardenas as well. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And colleagues, appreciate your attention to this matter. And the speakers that have testified under public comment. A through G requirements, that may sound like code for something. You know, we get into our lingo sometimes, but A through G is simply this: the basic course requirements for entry into a UC or California State University campus. Fathom that. A graduate from LAUSD high schools being eligible to move on to a state college. That's all we're talking about here. And the debate's going on at LA Unified School District about whether or not the course offerings should even be made available to all students. We were debating here yesterday during the budget about the city's role in some human relations activities in LAUSD. A couple of weeks ago, this council stood up and approved this joint school board city governance commission to look at improving schools, and it is very much at the forefront. What is the city's role in helping improve our schools? And while we've talked about governance, we've talked about public safety, we've talked about school construction and after-school programs in years past, here we are about to take a stand on a curriculum matter, an education matter that I think is very much common sense. Should students that graduate from LAUSD high schools be eligible because of those graduation requirements to move on to a UC campus or a Cal State campus? I think yes. And it is astonishing, it is shocking that that requirement isn't in place today. It's not in place already. In years past, I've been the last couple of weeks trying to explain this to a lot of my constituents, and everybody recalls a debate about AP classes and AP course offerings and how there are these significant inequities as to where AP classes are offered and where they're not in different schools in different parts of the school district. We're not talking about AP classes. We're not talking about highly advanced placement course offerings. We're talking about the basic requirements to move on from high school onto a UC school or a Cal State University school, like UCLA, like Cal State Northridge, like Cal State LA, or any of the other campuses throughout the state of California. Colleagues, I think this is common sense, and it's a shame that it hasn't been in place all these years over at LA Unified School District. Let's support the leaders on the school board who are stepping up to implement this at the school board level. We know it may not be easy. They have a lot of teachers and administration changes to make to be able to implement this district-wide, but we have to take the first step, and we have to take it sooner rather than later. I ask for your support.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to thank Jose Huizar for his leadership, and Councilor Padilla and Cardenas for bringing this forward. You know, colleagues, 35 years ago, there was a great movement in this city. This whole city went through a real tremendous flux of activity where the high school students walked out. The high school students said, no más, no more. We want better education. 35 years ago. 35 years ago, the dropout rates were over 50%. Today, they're at 65%. You look at what's happening in the African American community as well. Dropout rates are real high. The results of this work from folks who took to the streets actually created programs that spoke to how you supplement our youth, how you look at this gap, and how you feel that need. It's a sad statement today that not much has changed. Those of us who benefited from that social movement, the Great Society, the Great War on Poverty, many of us ended up in boards, council positions, judges, lawyers. What hasn't happened is at the teaching ranks, the academicians have not filled in those voids to the extent where now we have kids who are dropping out. So A through G is important, but this kind of work can't, in my mind, be successful without addressing the needs of the parents. How we inform the parents. This A through G is something we need. But where's the connectivity with the parents? Many of our communities are first generation. Many of the parents don't know about the requirements. Many of the children don't tell their parents they have to take 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 3 years of science, and on and on. Some of the kids kind of are happy that the parents don't even know this. But the fact is, we need to involve the parents at a much higher level. We need to be in a position where, and maybe, Council President, we can put together some kind of resolution that speaks to the role of the parents. And I look to our Council President, our President at the board, to come up with some kind of a strategy to deal with the parents, because it's not going to happen alone. So 35 years later, here we are. Many of us, our older brothers, our older cousins, our uncles, our aunts, who were in the streets, marching, walking out of the high schools because of deplorable conditions. They have every right to walk out today. So let's make these changes. Let's try to connect with recreation and parks and all the other facilities. We've been talking about joint development, joint use. And there's so many opportunities we haven't taken advantage of. So again, we got to be at a place where education and housing, education, recreation, education with our parents become common links, not separate tasks for different agencies and bureaucracies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Our next speaker is Mr. Parks, to be followed by Mr. Labange and then Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to commend Mr. Padilla for showing leadership on this issue. In fact, one of the most important things I think we can do is continue to concentrate on this educational process. The district I represent, unfortunately, not one school is at citywide average for the API scores. Unfortunately, it corresponds into being the most violent part of the city. And the other thing, I think that when we think of education and its relationship to the criminal justice system, all we need to know is that 60% of every one of the 160,000 people in state prison are illiterate. So it tells us that if we don't invest in education on the front end, that the criminal justice system will cause these young kids to continue perpetuating that system. And so it is important that we give our young people all of the options that are available. Every one of our young people looking to the future where they can make a choice whether they want to be involved in gang or whether they can get a college education, whether they want to be involved in selling drugs, or where they see that there's a potential of going to college and having a life which they can model for their peers and their children. So I think it is important that we give this option. Clearly, it is something in which I don't believe many people are aware, that so few of our young people not only just don't graduate, those who graduate aren't prepared to go to a state-level college. So that's a double whammy for many of our young people, particularly in our poor communities. So I think that it is something, particularly over the last few weeks, to see the President's Commission on Governance of the LA Unified School District, the most recent issue dealing with Human Relations Commission being on campus, and this is a clear indication that the council is going to continue looking for ways to enhance the young people in our community. And as I mentioned yesterday, we need not forget that these are the same kids that live in our residences, our apartments, our neighborhoods, and their families, and they in times vote for us, that the fact that they go on a high school campus does not eliminate our responsibility for them.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. And Mr. Reyes, as you said, 35 years ago or more, I think it's a little bit more than 35 years, but right about there, Sal Castro at Lincoln High School led the walkouts there, and which turned it around, which made the school district build a new high school called Wilson up on the big hill, I believe on Water and Power property or up there on top of the hill, when Wilson used to be together with El Sereno Junior High and the right there, and all that started the effort. But this is a continual momentum. I mean, it is so important to try to work this, but I hope there's twofold. I just hope there's twofold. The commitment, I went to Los Angeles public schools and benefited greatly by going to community colleges, by then going to Los Angeles State College, Cal State LA. And I hope it's just twofold. Those are those who should achieve the area of excellence for our University of California system, or also the state college system, but also community colleges. To be able to finish high school is something that they can do if given the right support, which we have to do more. And smaller schools are the answers. To understand that schools that we went to in Los Angeles, where we graduated with a total school population of 2,700, now there's 4,500 in that one campus, even on a year-round challenge, it means that we're not given the same shot I got and others got at that time. And that's the one thing that we should try to work for. And I know there's a lot of effort here. It is remarkable when you look at Los Angeles Unified graduates. I'm proud of Los Angeles Unified graduates. Dr. David Ho, who was a classmate of mine who developed the AIDS cocktail, if you could call it that, was a student at John Marshall High, got great teachers who pushed him to higher level on that effort. That was a glorious time. We have to bring that back, but also at the same time we have to bring it back what we have students finish school, have them want to be there in the classroom to get the excitement that education is all about. So I wanted to support it, but also remind those who are here today to advocate for this, that any level of education is important. And we all want to strive to get into the upper grades, but I did talk to a former shop teacher out in Van Nuys one day at a community meeting in North Hollywood, and he said, why are they closing all the shops? All the industrial arts, and it's important to have all tiers, all opportunities available for people. And I know you're shaking your head because I know you feel the same way, but this is truly important because as those students succeed, others will succeed with them too. Maybe not to the same level as them, but it'll elevate that discussion in their classroom and in their school and in their campus. Thank you, Alex, for your continued effort in this here, and I look forward to the Commission on Governance so that we could deal with issues that would improve opportunities for young people, the same opportunities I got 35, 40 years ago in Los Angeles growing up in this city. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, Mr. Huizar, if you could come forward, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about how the district can do this and if it's doable. First of all, is there a cost factor to this? And if there is there any cost basis of pros and cons of maybe even possibly saving money if you go down to this route?
Yes. At the
please.
At the current time, we do not have a cost estimate for this, but we expect that there will be savings for programs, for monies that we currently put into remedial programs, intervention programs. We know that if we're going to do a lot better providing these students these other classes, they're not going to have to take those remedial programs or those intervention programs. So we're going to see a lot of savings on money that we currently put there, shift them over to this effort, but at this time, we do not have a cost estimate.
You mentioned earlier that the San Jose School District actually implemented the A through G requirements for all their students. Were there any naysayers before they did it? Was it any speculation that it can't be done or that it shouldn't be done when they tried to do it?
Yes, at San Jose, the same debate that happened there is occurring at LAUSD at the present time. The naysayers were, you're going to take away from vocational ed, from the students who want to be mechanics, electricians, or plumbers. But like I mentioned earlier, our building and trades unions support the A through G because the type of skills you get through those classes are the types of skills they want their workers to have when they become the mechanics, the tradespeople.
So the tradespeople are actually acknowledging that if you prepare a kid for college and say they're a better reader or they took higher level math and then they decide not to go to college, they want to be an electrician, that actually helps them in that job. So in other words, you prepare them to be in the vocational skills, type of job, or you prepare them to go off to college to have other, maybe what they call white-collar jobs or what have you.
That's correct. And I think one thing that Mr. Labange mentioned is that, and he's correct, there are shop classes that are no longer offered, and that's very unfortunate. I think if we implement the A through G requirement, it's going to call attention to our lack of vocational ed courses that we have been providing. We have been cutting those in the past decade, and I think it's going to call attention to us to need to supplement and support those types of courses as well.
Thank you, Jose Huizar, for your leadership on this issue, and I 100% support this effort, because when I met my counselor for the first time when I got to San Fernando High School, I actually had to argue with her that I wanted to take my A through F, it was called A through F at that time, to go to college, because I wanted to be an engineer. And the first words out of her mouth was, "You'll make a fine mechanic." She had never met me before in her life. She didn't know if I had 2 thumbs or 10 thumbs or what have you, but she tried to convince me to become a mechanic when I wanted to be an engineer. Thank God I was able to win that argument. But unfortunately, as was mentioned by Mr. Reyes, many parents don't even know what A through G requirements are. I never shared that story with my parents. But unfortunately, after I got my college degree, I did become an engineer. I had actually been sitting down with a couple of friends of mine and my brother, who we all went to San Fernando High School, and all of us did go off to college and successfully got our degrees. One of them actually had his Juris Doctor degree by then. And I shared the story about how for some reason I shared the story how the counselor argued with me. And then to the person, all 4 of us had a similar story to tell. It was a different counselor, a different person who was trying to discourage us from going to college. I think that's unconscionable. And I think it's important that, unfortunately, we have to formalize the requirement that every counselor not try to deter our children from getting their A through G requirements, but actually require them to do that. That way, if we have an ignorant counselor who doesn't know that we need to challenge our children. We shouldn't try to either put them down or try to think less of them. We need to challenge them. And studies have shown if you raise the bar on people, they will do a better job of either reaching that bar or attaining their achievements much higher than if you didn't have a bar at all. So I think this is very important. Unfortunately, we have some people out there who do not respect our children. They don't appreciate the fact that they are very bright and that they do have potential, and this will raise the bar for all children. And if some children can't make it, believe me, whatever bar they end up attaining will be much better than they're attaining today, because it's well over 50% of our kids in LAUSD who don't even get a diploma, much less are prepared for a vocational job or to go to college or anything else. So once again, thank you for your leadership. This is bold. It is the right thing to do, and we cannot afford not to.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas.
Yes.
If I could add, the resolution that I've presented to the board, along with Board Member Lortzen, will be voted upon May 24th, and we hope it passes. If it passes, this will be implemented for the freshmen and 9th graders beginning 2008. The reason we've extended it to the year 2008 is that we want to make sure we do it right, because we could actually implement it, not prepare ourselves, and yes, have the higher dropout rates if we do not prepare ourselves well. So we have some time to implement it well. And to Mr. Reyes' point about parents, we obviously and want to support our parents and make them aware of this. In fact, a Tomas Rivera Policy Institute study asked parents, Latino parents, if they wanted their children to go to college. About 86% said yes. When they asked them, do you know what you need to do to get your children in college, it was only about 16 to 17%. So we know we have a challenge there, and as we implement this, we're going to make sure we get the parents involved so that they're aware of what they need to do to get their children in college, if they so choose.
Thank you, President Huizar. I think you put it very well. A better educated community, a better educated student makes a better society, and it saves the taxpayers a lot more money in the long run. So thank you very much, and we support you wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. And our final speaker, Mr. Reyes.
Yes, President Huizar, if I may. I wanted to be emphatic about the parental role in this process. Do we have anything within the school district that could lead us to believe that we could have parents involved in a very systemic way? Do we have a policy like that that we might look to, that we can help support you in, maybe bring in some of the city agencies and talk about how we leverage our resources? Is there anything like that that we can at least build with?
Actually, Mr. S., if I could be quite frank, there is not. One idea I had is to have a district-wide policy on what the district is doing to support more parental involvement, not only for the A through G requirements, but in general. I was thinking along the lines of asking our schools to have a minimum set of
Please hold my time.
standards as to what our local school sites should do to support the involvement of parents at the school and their children's education. We do not have that now, and I think the time is ripe for us to discuss that collectively with the city and with the school district as to what we could do collectively to have certain set of understandings of what our school sites, our city agencies should do to support parental involvement in our schools.
So the bottom line is we don't.
We don't have a district-wide policy on how we, it varies from school to school. Some schools are very supportive. The principals and teachers work very well with parents. Others do not. But I think if we set a minimum set of requirements or standards, whatever you want to call them, as to what schools should do or city agencies, all of us as community members should do to support parental involvement, I think that will go a long way to getting more parental involvement.
What are the odds of us actually putting something together where the parents get involved, given all the great dynamics of the board and of this council and the unions?
The odds are very good. We just have to put our minds together and get to work.
So maybe the next time you come, we announce something that talks about parental involvement?
I think you just have assigned me some homework. I will go back and start working on that proposal.
Let's work together on that with my colleagues and build upon that, because without that, I really believe without the parents, this doesn't go anywhere. It's obvious, the dropout rates are there for a reason, and the parents have to play a much greater role, and we should formalize that. And we're running out of time. I have 4 years left. The way policies tend to evolve, they run on glacier time, and I just feel we're running out of time, not only for ourselves as a community, but for the kids who are being left out in the cold right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. S. And I have no doubt, and I strongly believe from the bottom of my heart, that LAUSD could be a high-performing school district. We know our children are smart. We just have to continue to make some changes. Earlier, we mentioned some ingredients as to what makes successful schools. I strongly believe that you make schools smaller, high expectations, local control for more strategic allocation of resources, and parental involvement with those ingredients, which we know we could implement in our schools. We have higher performing schools.
Well, when we get together again, let's make it happen.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you.
Mr. Zine?
Don't go away yet. Come on back. I'm going to wait till we're all done.
Okay.
Out in the West San Fernando Valley, El Camino wins the decathlon numerous times. Taft High wins academic scholarships. Cleveland High just won scholarship, or not the scholarship, but a national recognition distinguished school. We have that happen in the San Fernando Valley, and I think one of the problems that we really have to face is parents live in one area, students go to school in another area, and the reality of parents that are working that have to travel 30 miles in traffic and take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to a location after work, it doesn't seem to work. I know that with the new schools that we are building in the communities, we will have the parent involvement. I know in the Valley, in my district, the 3rd district, we have a lot of parent involvement at the elementary, the middle, and the high schools, and it really shows in the scores. It really shows in the achievement. And I look at students who are taken to those areas from other parts of the city where the parents, for whatever reason, the transportation demands, the family requirements, et cetera, don't have the time to do that. And whatever requirements we put in, they have to be realistic. I know that when the parents are involved, the students are going to excel. We're going to have less gang violence. The teachers will feel satisfaction because they're not as frustrated as many of them are now with the way the merry-go-round and the dropout rate. Yeah. And no matter where people are from, whatever culture, the parents always want what's good for their children. They want to see them excel and achieve that success, and they will do whatever they can to make that happen. But I think a fact that we don't really recognize or want to really pay attention to or admit is the inconvenience factor of raising a family in one area of the city and having to commute to another area of the city to have a teacher-parent conference. And I think if we look at that and we analyze how do we rectify that problem with whatever programs we put into place, because you can mandate programs for the parents to get involved, they don't show up, what are you going to do to the parents? You know, you're not going to find them, you're not going to put them in jail. They have a difficult time putting food on the table, taking care of the family needs, working a job, and paying the rent, et cetera. So I think looking at the districts that really have found some achievement, where we have the parental involvement, where it's convenient, where they live close to the place where they work, it's convenient, they get off of work, they travel a couple blocks to the school, which is the whole concept about neighborhood schools. And I know that the district is moving forward with 100-plus schools. That hopefully will remedy a lot of the problems that we're encountering with the dropout rate and the lack of parent participation. I don't think the parents are neglecting the responsibility. I think it's really impractical for them oftentimes to say, how am I going to travel from one part of the city to the other part of the city, spend 2 hours, come back, and the family demands and the needs. Can you comment on that briefly? If that ever had been explored, the reality of the students living in one area and education in another area?
Yes, of course, Mr. Zine. And what you're speaking to is the 16,000 children who are bused out of their communities each and every day because they do not have a seat in their local school. That does not account the other. We also bus for magnet programs and transfer choice when they transferred by choice, but there are 16,000 children who do not have seats in their local schools, so they're bused out. And actually, when we studied the student achievement levels for those students who are in their local school versus CAP students, as we call them, when they go to other schools, we do see lower student achievement, and it's based, we haven't directly correlated to that, but we think that it has a lot to do with not only the travel time they spend on the bus, where they could be spending doing homework or after school programs, but a big component of that, as you mentioned, is parents that do not have access to going to school, meeting the teacher, meeting the principal, and most of these parents are public transit dependent. And so I ask you as well, if we do our end in improving education, we could also work towards some of our issues on public transportation. But we do know that that does affect our students. We have very good news, as you mentioned, that we're building the schools necessary. We're very proud of the fact that we're building 160 new schools in the next 8 years. It's phenomenal. At the same time, in the interim, it's incumbent upon the district to do something to see how we could support our parents get more involved in their children's education for those students who are capped.
Yeah, we can't wait 8 years for that to happen.
Do something now for those students.
The transit-dependent population, which is a large population of Los Angeles, to go from the central city to the San Fernando Valley, it would take probably 3 to 4 hours on public transit. And it takes an hour plus with the congestion. So I just think that's the practical part that we have to recognize and say, how do we make this happen where the parents always come to teachers? I don't know if the teachers can go to the neighborhoods or some program in the short term to try and get them involved, because I think at the bottom of it, parents are concerned, but there's that real practicality of how am I going to get there, especially if they're dependent on public transit, for the time delay it's going to take and the other responsibilities they have. But I commend for bringing this forward, and I know that working together with the school board and with this council, we're all committed to public education. And I keep saying the phrase over and over and over again, coming from law enforcement, you either incarcerate or you educate, and it's a much better approach to educate than incarcerate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. And Ms. Gruhl is our next speaker.
I'm just going to say nice things about you, Jose, so you can sit down if you want to. I wasn't going to stand up because all of my colleagues have been so eloquent about the importance of this motion, and thank you, Mr. Padilla and Mr. Cardenas, for the introduction of this motion, as well as our wonderful school board president, Jose Huizar. The kind of interaction we're seeing between the school district and the city of Los Angeles is critical, and we talk about successful programs and the importance of our kids getting into college. And I was at a meeting last night with the Armenian community in my district, and the number one issue, in addition to finding them a great place to have their community center, is education. That was their number one issue as far as after-school programs and educating their students, bilingual, all kinds of issues. And so I think a day does not go by that education is not at the top of the list for so many people. And it's great that we are taking an interest in that we are supporting the efforts of the school board, and hope you will continue to think of us as partners in that effort and a resource to make sure that the school district is the kind of school district I know you want us to have, which is to be able to have lower dropout rates, higher graduation that allows them to go to college, whether it be a four-year university or a two-year community college, which we have so many in the San Fernando Valley that have been quite successful. So thank you, Jose. Thank you to the leaders of our council members that put this forward. And I just wanted to, I think everyone else had spoken, so you got to stand up and say something, but it was particular to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. Seeing no other speakers wishing to speak, let us open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. We'll go forthwith on that item. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 24 was called special for cards from the public.
Okay. This time, I'd like to call forward for item number 24, Sylvia Lynn Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins, item 24.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins. Our justice system and funding must be directed in the right order when it is dealing with cases in court order. We can't at this time have any more Iraq cases here or there overseas, and their judges here. Illegally allowing cases to pass that have failed. These judges must be fired at this time because of Hawk War 5, and these judges cannot stop our President Bush in his decision to get United States of America prepared for nuclear bomb, or in his decision in going to other presidents or country for major decision above these fake judges that is not with United States of America. Again, these is my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. That closes public comment for this item. Anybody wishing to be heard on this? And seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 25 was called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Mr. President, I call this special, colleagues. We are funding a mural. It's called the Chicano Art Movement Mural. The title is Chicano Time Trip. The reason why I bring it up, it coincides with what we were talking about earlier about the Chicano moratorium. Back in '77 on North Broadway and Daly Street in Lincoln Heights, a mural was put together in response to the 1976 U.S. Bicentennial, which didn't address the Chicano heritage. The panels cover pre-Columbian society, the Spanish conquest, colonialism, Mexican independence, and the rise of a new ruling class in the Mexican Revolution. And I thought it was important because, one, at this time, 35 years ago with the Chicano moratorium, you had the blowouts. As Mr. Tom LaBonge, our councilman there, described, Lincoln High School in Lincoln Heights was one of the first schools to walk out. What followed was a whole series of schools shutting down, protesting, not only the lack of education, but the fact that a high number of Spanish surname young people were dying in Vietnam. A lot of parallels with today when you talk about the high numbers of Spanish surname people dying in the conflict over in the Middle East. So it's strange how time has changed, but a lot of the issues and concerns don't seem to improve. So I thought it was important that we redo this mural, remind our young people of their heritage, a sense of pride, a reason why they shouldn't be joining gangs, and talk about a sense of history, given that these great murals have been either tagged, painted over, or just been lost in the process. Given cutbacks, our Cultural Affairs Department and other departments have lost money. Our ability to repair these murals are very significant, and many of the older poverty-stricken areas where young people have very little hope, and these murals become a place which they can essentially become familiar with the history that their high schools are not teaching them. So with that, colleagues, I just want to spend this time just sharing this a little bit with you, and that we are going to fund this mural with your support and bring back a sense of history, a sense of urgency in what's happening to our young people, and ask for an aye vote. But before I do that, colleagues, I just want to take a moment, given that I have a minute left. I'll use up all my time. We have some great guests with us, very important individuals who are here to observe the mayor's race. They are Dr. Abelardo Valdez, professor and sociologist at the University of Houston. He's the director for the Drug and Social Policy Research Program. And Dr. Tacho Mendiola, director of the Mexican American Center at the University of Houston. Dr. Valdez is a proud father of Rebecca Valdez, who also works in my office. Gentlemen, would you please rise and be recognized by the council? Thank you for joining us. With that, I ask for an aye vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. I think you still have 30 seconds left if you want, but you all right? Okay. With that, we can open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 31 was called special for cards from the public.
All right, Sylvia Lynn Hawkins on item 31, please.
Good morning again. My name is Miss Sylvia Lenny Hawkins. We must at this time say no to the contract amendment with Floor A&E Service until all operation of firemen's and police dispatch is on the alert of different council members, like that of Council Member Tony Canales, faking his position, job position as a detective on the scene investigating Columbine school disaster. Then back into this position as the city council man to hide out. All police and FBI must be on safety zone of his cover-up, and people here like Honor Schwarzenegger, Governor, and overseas Prime Minister Blair, that is working along with this councilman.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Appreciate your comments, Ms. Hawkins. That closes public comment. If we can open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Zion, request to be excused July 13th and 15th for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, Mr. Zine is excused.
Councilmember Labange, request to be excused Tuesday, May 31st for city business. That also meets council policy.
Mr. Labange is excused.
Councilmember Garcetti, request to be excused to leave at 11:30 on Friday, May 20th, and at 11:15 on Tuesday, May 24th, both for city business, and motion is required.
Mr. Parks moves, Mr. Zine seconds. Mr. Garcetti is excused.
Councilmember Miskowski requests to be excused to leave at 11:30 on Friday, May 20th for city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Weiss moves and Ms. Gruhl seconds.
And Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused on Friday, May 27th for personal business. A motion is required.
Mr. Smith moves, Mr. Reyes seconds. He's excused.
That does clear the desk, Mr. President.
Okay. Colleagues, announcements.
Mr. Reyes first.
Mr. Reyes, we'll start with that side, and then Mr. Labange. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. The City of LA is in the process of selecting a consultant team to assist with the preparation of the Alley River Revitalization Master Plan. As part of this process, the city will be hosting a public presentation by selected teams. The three finalists are CH2M Hill and EDA. The second team is Tetra Tech, Civitas, and Wenck. And the third team is EIP Associates and Hargraves. The public presentation will be on Thursday, May 19th, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Department of Water and Power's Auditorium A level, over right here in downtown. Validated parking will be available for the customer parking lot to be entered on Hope Street. So those of us who are interested in this process, you're all invited, the public's invited. It should be a great presentation. My second announcement is on May 19th, we have Bike to Work Day. It marks the 11th annual Bike to Work Day for LA County. It's a date chosen for the second annual West Coast Blessing of the Bicycles, held at Good Samaritan Hospital. This year's event promises to provide great fun and excitement. The bicyclists will be treated to a light breakfast snack, water bottles, information. The sponsors include council offices, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Department of Transportation, the LA Bike Coalition, and REI. So council colleagues are invited to ride. We might have electric bikes for you down from Good Sam into downtown. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you, Mr. Garcetti, at Echo Park in Sunset, right on the
7:45.
corner for the every annual event. It's a little easier coming straight down Sunset. Mr. Zine, could you join us? You can start on Ventura Boulevard at about 4 in the morning.
Bike to Work Day on Thursday. Mr. Zine
Good.
will meet us.
On your Harley. Very good. Members, just want to remind everybody this Sunday at the Page Museum, we'll have our first Los Angeles Sister City Festival. We'll have music, dance, art, entertainment from all over the world of our various sister cities. The Page Museum located on the Miracle Mile next to the County Art Museum in their great garden area. Everyone's invited to attend. This is this Sunday, May 22nd, from noon to 7 p.m.
Thank you. Any other announcements, colleagues? Of course, for those who are listening live, we encourage everybody to vote today on Election Day. Make sure you exercise that right that you have here in the city of Los Angeles. Can I ask everybody to rise, please, for adjourning motions?
You're 10? You want them bad? Yeah. $5, $20.
Any adjourning motions, colleagues?
Okay, lunch.
Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Okay, a lunch?
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.